You have no idea how afraid I am right now. I'm not sure if I should laugh or cry with this hysteria inside of me. I don't know who's crazier, me to stand on the stage or the women who decide to put me here to tell you all to live fearlessly. I'm afraid, and it's a good thing, because fear is my power. I'm going to stand here and tell you stories of fearless women. Women that deserve to be heard. I'm afraid. And to be brutally honest with you, I'm afraid of babbling on like a foolish idiot or being a failure. A failure at finally giving these women the time they deserve to be heard. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to stand here and I'm going to do this. Because it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth hearing these women's stories. It's worth it as a photographer to finally share these stories of fearless women. It's worth exposing all this vulnerability to finally give these women a voice to women who are often overlooked or ignored. Their stories are full of poverty, heartbreak, oppression, yet their stories are full of resilience, courage, and visions. These women deserve to be heard. Their stories matter. They matter to me. They should matter to you. Their stories resonate with me because they're familiar. By looking at my family photos, you might think I had an easy childhood. If you know me, you know I'm a perfect balance of these amazing parents. If you know me, you know my childhood wasn't easy. Early memories of poverty, rescuing furniture from the dump for our trailer, my mother's ingenious popcorn parties for dinner, and the substance abuse, the anger, the fear. Trust me, I've been there. I know what it feels like to want a different life so badly. I know what it feels like to be judged and ignored. Yet I know about resilience and determination and working hard for what I want. Damn it, I know what it feels like to work hard for what I want. And I've never wanted anything more than to be an artist, a photographer. And fear has always stood in my way. Sometimes it stood next to me and would say things like, "You're worthless. You should be ashamed of yourself for wanting something more. You're not special." Or, "Life isn't a movie. Grow up." I got so fed up to listening to those fears. Every day I didn't act, my dream was going further into the distance, off into the horizon. I got fed up. I was going to catch it. So I grabbed my camera gear, jumped on a bicycle, and rode all around Asia, everywhere, photographing everything, everyone. Fear was my catalyst to act. Little did I expect that little trailer park girl would be led from China to Mongolia, Tibet, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Southeast Asia, Bangladesh. Little did I expect that scared little girl would be pulled into homes of complete strangers. Little did I expect that all our stories could be so similar. Take, for instance, what I learned in Bangladesh. What is the fear that's stopping you from speaking out? Do you remember the Rana Plaza collapse of Bangladesh? The official death toll is 1,129. That's approximately half of the World Trade Center disaster from 9/11. The locals will tell you it's closer to 3,000. I met Rushan in Bangladesh. Her and her family live about a 15-minute walk from the disaster site. Rushan's a survivor. 3 years later, she still works from home because of trauma and injuries from that day. I watch Rushan, the weight of shame on her shoulders because her family continues to struggle. She tells me with tears filling in her eyes that no one understands the flame inside of her that wants to speak out. She stifles that fire out of fear, and her community tells her to remain quiet. I watch Rushan cut and sew in that gray, cold, concrete block room. The humming of the sewing machine, the stacks of fabric lighting up the room with those vibrant colors. The room empties, and the only person that's left is Rushan's daughter, a 15-year-old that now works garment industry. She pulls the blanket down from her face, covering the chicken pox, and looks at me and says, "Please help me. My life is horrible." I can't ignore her. I don't ignore her. Rushan's 15-year-old daughter had the courage to speak out. By her speaking out, lit that fire inside of me to use my voice. By getting over this fear of using this voice, I'm bringing awareness to women's labor issues. This voice might have a positive impact on the world. What could you do if you had the courage to use your voice? Could your voice be your power? Now let's move to Xinjiang. What is the fear that's stopping you from being genuine? I know families who face daily judgment for everything. Their clothes, their food, their language, their culture, religion, economic, education status, their bloodline. Why? Because they're Uyghurs, a Muslim minority of China. They face daily judgment for everything. I've been so fortunate over the last 5 years to spend months with these families. I've seen the power of love, courage, tolerance, hospitality at a level that I've never seen in self-proclaimed tolerant societies I've experienced. These people face daily judgment for everything, yet they continue to be true to who they are. One of the most memorable experiences the last night I spent with my closest Uyghur family. Rezwangul and I walk through the catacombs of the mud-packed homes. We climb up these old, rickety wooden ladders to the rooftops. We are going to pick the biggest, ripest mulberries in the neighborhood. The children are below playing, sometimes calling up at us. The sun is setting. The sand-filled skies turn orange, camouflaging the apricots and the other trees. The man next to us is moving a stick in the air as if he's conducting a symphony of pigeons, birds free in flight before the sun sets. Years ago, you would have heard the call to prayer. But now you no longer hear that song carried through the desert winds because that practice is illegal. The only thing I hear are the children playing below, the swooshing of the pigeons around us, And Aigul, Reswangul calls me by my Uyghur name, and I follow her from roof to roof, delicate dancing around the fallen berries. We giggle, talk about love, life, desires, and we pick those berries, and our fingertips begin to turn the same crimson red that now floods the sky. I could live in this memory forever. These families are what dreams are made of. Yet these people face daily judgment for everything, yet they continue to be true to who they are. What is the fear that's stopping you from being true to yourself? Would you prefer the respect for your courage to be authentic? Or would you prefer to go through life unnoticed? Now let's move to Tibet. What is the fear that's stopping you from loving? A few years ago, I'm walking through the mountains of eastern Tibet, and I meet Raina. I'm walking from nowhere to nowhere. And at this particular nowhere, this little old, adorable Tibetan woman is sitting over in her crop fields, waving over at me. So I go sit down next to her, and I'm greeted with the biggest, near toothless smile I've ever seen, and she shoves a great big bowl of sampa in my hands. I refuse seconds, laughing. She only laughs harder. A hailstorm rolls in, disrupting our little tea party, and I have to go home with her for the night. Immediately, I'm accepted into this household of 6. Raina is the mother of 7 children. Raina names me Desi, named after her eldest deceased daughter. I smile, remain calm through those days as it's spreading through this tiny village that Desi's returned. Desi's home. I live with this family as a daughter and sister for days. Raina doesn't want me to leave, and I don't want to leave. Raina worries about me, and I worry about her. Her thin socks and those dull cooking knives and that broken window. I would use my own knife to help prepare dinner. I would share that cold back room with her and those dirty animal furs, and I loved every single moment I spent with her. I stayed much longer than I had planned. I didn't want to say that goodbye. So I finally got the courage to tell Raina I had to leave. She would help put on my backpack, nearly the size of her, and insist on walking me to the trail that would lead me through the mountains alone. We walk down the hill, and I watch her leaping over stones and creeks as if she's weightless. My little fairy godmother. My chest begins to tighten. My vision becomes blurry. We get to that road, and she turns around, and we both have tears streaming off of our cheeks. We embrace each other, sobbing on one another's shoulders, feeling each other's heart. This intense human connection beyond words, culture, religion, sisterhood. Raina didn't have to let me in that day. She'd already lost a daughter, and she was going to lose another, me. Raina taught me to love fearlessly. Can you imagine what we could all feel if we weren't afraid of getting hurt? What if we all loved recklessly? What could we become if we had the courage to be who we really are? And what kind of impact could we have on the world if we had the courage to speak out. What is the fear that's stopping you? Fear is my power, and I use it to put me into action. Fear can be an empowering emotion. Fear can push you to live fearlessly. I'm still afraid, and it's a great thing because fear is my power, and this power makes me live fearlessly. Fear can be your power because fear is power.